With Lesson 9, we attempt to do the impossible. In one lesson, to view 4 books of the law, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, and make them very concisely stuck into one diagram in one lesson. It's impossible. I rely on you to read your lesson. It will at least fill in some of the gaps that you're going to experience with my narration here. Look at the center of this diagram, and you have our explosive shape, God, with 2 arrows, double-headed arrows, one with God, pointing to God, the other to the family that he is forming, and across it is the word covenant. In our last lesson, we saw that covenant take shape on Mount Sinai, with the family of God down on the plain below, the almighty and majesty of God inflaming the whole mountain, with Moses the mediator, and Moses sprinkling blood on the people and on the mountain, binding them in this covenant of blood that will never be reneged on by God, and the people are to obey it. From this, we have what I've just described in 4 books of the law of the Old Testament. They are the expansions that take place with the essential 10 commandments. In the first 3 commandments, the people are given the worship that they are to assume with Almighty God. And from that worship of God, they will develop the different ways that will fulfill those 3 commandments. From the first, Moses is given directions of how to build a tabernacle where God will dwell with his people, where they will come to observe their ways of sacrificing, their ways of worshiping Almighty God. He was also given the directions for building an ark where the 10 commandments will be placed perpetually. And from these 2 essentials spring the need for priests, Levites, ordination, holy garments, the beauty and glory of the tabernacle and the ark itself. And from this essential will come the ways of providing offerings to Almighty God, the sacrifices needed to clear the sins that will eventually overtake the people. They are there from the first. And this will be done all to fulfill the first 3 commandments of loving God with their whole being. Eventually, and of course this is a historic development, I liken it to the way our Constitution was formed 300 years ago, and how the development of that takes place through laws that are appropriate for our time. This is what has happened to the 10 commandments given to Moses. He himself was given the direction of how to provide a priesthood, how to provide ordination, and how to set up the necessary sacrifices. But as time goes on, there are more and more additions made to purify and substantiate the worship necessary to Almighty God. But they are all done in a development, we'd say, of the first 3 commandments. Eventually we will have Nazarites who are set apart by special vows and by a special way of life. The people of God will be given rules about how to assemble and what to assemble about and how to announce those assemblies with trumpets. Actually, as time goes on, the entire calendar is centered upon God and the covenant and the law. Day by day, month by month, there are feasts of remembrance, and of course, the Passover must continue to be remembered until time ends. The priests are given a holy garment, and in them are pockets, and the chief priest draws Urim and Thummim in order to understand the will of God in certain circumstances. There will be a Sabbath every week, and there will be a Sabbath year and a Sabbath rest for the people. So in this first circle, we have the first 3 commandments and the way they are developed to keep these people totally conscious about God and His role, His central role in their lives. But that is not the whole of the 10 commandments. We also have 7 other commandments, and they are how to live a holy life. They include the food that is eaten, the sex practices of the people, their need for purity in their lives, how marriage must be free of adultery, how the family must be honored, the father and the mother. It will include eventually the rules of murder, of stealing and of lying, of sorcery, blasphemy, idolatry, forbidden things that cannot be done, and live a holy life that is centered in God and the covenant. Even the way sickness is handled, what constitutes sickness and health. Of course, all of these things are everyday life of the people, and they are all to be conscious constantly of God and His commandments. Beyond these, the growth of the law extends to the justice to other people. We must honor our rulers. We must have a civil law that is in defense of the stranger or of the weak. We must have no slavery for the Israelites. Any slave is to go free in 6 years. Any injuries to people and property are to be balanced out by law. As Israel grows, there'll be need for international treaties. That old law, the eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth, comes out of justice to others. Cities of refuge will be set up for the person needing to flee from the revenge of his neighbors. There'll be laws regulating that revenge. There'll be criminal laws set up, all with the center in the 10 Commandments, in the law of God, in the remembrance of His people, that they belong to Him and to no other. This long development will take place. We will see that it is made, perhaps has even been influenced by other laws of other people round about them, but the difference will be that for the people around about them, these are crimes against others that are regulated, and for the people of God, they are not crimes so much as sins. God is the center of their legal life. Now, with this very hasty view of the law, I do beg you to read your lesson.